Hello, my name's Tony Smith. I work in Efsa's communication unit. Welcome to Brussels. Welcome to the One Health, Environment and Society conference. Welcome to a special side event that we're having today, a chat with our Executive Director at Efsa. Before I invite Bernard up onto the stage and we get moving, I just wanted to let you know that you can ask Bernard questions, so that's both the people here physically at the conference via the conference app, and also those of you who are online watching, you can also, of course, answer questions as well. Just make sure that when you use the app that you are logged in so that we can see who's asking the questions and make sure they come through, and we can see, and then we can find out what if Bernard has an interesting answer to your questions. Okay. So anyway, before we get to the part with the questions, we're going to have a little chat. So I'd like to first of all invite Bernard Earl onto the stage. Bernard, Executive Director of Efsa.
Hello. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Bernard. Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
So, how's the conference going so far for you?
Well, for me, it's going very well. I'm really excited. I'm happy. I'm really happy how it's going. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of positive feedback for the way how it is organized and put together, for the topics, the speakers, the breadth, the courage also that Efsa has. I met a colleague from the European Chemicals Agency this morning at the corridor, and he said, "We could never do that." How can you do that as Efsa? I said, yeah, we can. So it's really also a sign that we take things seriously, not only in science, but also when we do something, we do it in a serious and hopefully professional way. And you can feel that. It's a good sentiment. There's a good mood and a good vibes around. So I'm very happy.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. I think it's interesting that there's some substance there in the discussions, especially today and tomorrow, the thematic discussions, but also in those big worldview type discussions we had yesterday and on the final day. That kind of brings me to the first thing I wanted to ask you, which is we've heard a lot about trust, trust in organizations, being trustworthy. I know you can't just talk about it, you just have to do it. To earn that trust. But how is that going to be? How easy is that when there are so many different truths out there? And how can we make sure that people think that our truth is the one that they should be listening to when it comes to food safety?
Yeah, that's a difficult task. I think the only option we have, besides doing good science, I think the basis of everything is to produce good science. Good means state-of-the-art, objective, as less biased as possible science with the right data, the right methodologies. That's the starting point for everything. If we don't have that, we should not ask for trust. And then we learned over the years it's not enough to have good science. It's not enough. We have to communicate science in a way that others can take it and act upon it. For example, members of the European Parliament or the European Commission. And there, we cannot say, trust us. No, it doesn't work. It's like in a private relationship. You cannot ask your partner, trust me. I mean, you can, but usually it's not always a recipe for success. So what we can do as an organization is behave trustworthy, as you said. What does that mean? To be open, to be accessible, to be in dialogue, to make data transparent so that others can use it, to be understandable, our language, how we speak to target audiences. I think we have ways to show that we are trustworthy, and then it's up to the others to trust us or not. Now you could say, yes, fine, but there are so many truths out there. We are just one voice within an orchestra of 1 million voices, which is also true. And this is a big problem for science in general, not only for Efsa. And we learned from the social sciences that the desire of people to belong to a group is much stronger than the desire for truth. So before the group expels you because you believe something that the group doesn't believe, you rather be conform with the group, which is a big problem when it comes to vaccination, when it comes to, we have seen all that. It's a real challenge for all of us who are maybe not, well, first of all, for all of us who are producing science, but also for us who want to advise policymakers to take the right decisions.
I think somebody raised that yesterday, that risk is also a social construct.
I like this very much.
So,
risk is a social construct, yes.
So clearly there's a different view there between natural sciences and social sciences, and we have to find some way of integrating those two things in certainly when we communicate on the results of our work.
Yes. I found it also very interesting yesterday that one of the speakers said that there is risk communication and then there is concern communication. And the concerns of people, they construct the risk. So we construct the risk every day in our life, the everyday risks, but also risks that come from food. And there we use more and more, as you said, insights from social science, behavioral science, and decision-making science, target audience perceptions. How can we relate better to our target audiences so that they can understand, first of all, what we mean, how does it fit in their context, to contextualize our scientific outcomes, but also this notion of care. Because sometimes science is perceived as cold. It's evidence-based, it's numbers, it's algorithm, it's cold. But the fear of people are not cold, they're hot, the concerns. And to relate to the concerns and to give this, it's not only an impression, to behave in a way that we take it seriously, we care, is very important, I think.
It's supposed to be able to show in a convincing way that you're listening and
Yes.
not just telling people.
Yes. We had yesterday also, in one of the speeches that the deficit model of communication is so old and outdated and wrong, proven to be wrong again. It's not us telling them, we know, they don't know, so we tell them, they also know, then they have to believe us. We know all that does not work. So it's listening, but it's not only listening, it's also engaging, it's discussing, it's reflection. So I think the integration of risk assessment, scientific advice into the bigger societal context, we are still not there. We are going there. I think as Efsa we have done many steps together with our member state partners, but we are not yet there.
Who knows, maybe we'll have social scientists on Efsa's panels one day.
Yes, I think that could be a future. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to monopolize the communications discourse for the whole thing, so maybe we'll turn to some of the bigger themes, some of the other big themes of the conference. Obviously sustainability is a huge part of the One Health discussion, but so sustainability is a bigger issue. It's not just food. So where does food sit in the broader sustainability debate?
Well, I think, as we all know, the food production system is a major contributor to stressing the planet. Using energy, using water, land use, nitrogen, phosphorus, greenhouse gas emissions. There are many, many aspects where the food system really contributes to sort of a deterioration of the natural resources, biodiversity losses, not to forget. So the food system is in itself something, as we know, we have to transform, cannot continue like that. And within the food system, we have food safety, and we say always food safety is the basis for everything. If it's not safe, it's not food, basta. So food safety is the starting point, otherwise there's no food, there's no market, there's no trade. But then we also realized, and that's not new, that food safety is not enough. And what we see in Efsa, and how we also try to put this conference together, is that One Health, the principle of One Health can help us to link food safety to sustainability. So it's from safe food, balanced diets, and diets which are produced in sustainable food systems. And there the One Health concept can be a rallying point, a unifying principle, and say, okay, let's look together at the problems and not individually and try to find solutions.
Actually, that leads a bit onto the next point about the One Health. There was a great presentation from Patrick Wall yesterday, who gave some interesting examples as well about where One Health is already taking place. Do we have concrete examples of that where it's working also in the food context in Europe? EFSA's work, the work of the risk manager partners, the member states. Well, something we can point to.
Yeah, I think one of the origins of the One Health discussion was zoonosis and antimicrobial resistance. I think these are two pillars of One Health for many, many years, because we realized that we cannot fight antimicrobial resistance if we, I'm a veterinarian, if the veterinarians say, it's not us, it's the physicians, they are guilty of prescribing too many antibiotics. So we learned over the years, painfully, but we learned we have to work together in the fight against AMR. The same is true for zoonosis. So there is a long history, and I think Efsa in itself is in a way a sort of a small One Health universe, because we work from plant health to human nutrition, and this needs collaboration, this needs to look at safety from very different perspectives. So there are good examples, still not enough. We all know that AMR is what we call the silent pandemic. So if we don't do more against AMR, we will pay a very high price in the future. And what is new for me, or what I would like to stress, is that in this human health, veterinary health, One Health principle, we have to add now planetary health. This was already coming. People said, yeah, we have to include the environment in the One Health principle. But still the environment was seen something like a bit of a background where bacteria can exchange genes and then they exchange resistance. So that was the environment part mainly. And maybe also for zoonosis, there's natural habitats, then it's a spillover of viruses like COVID, they come into the human habitat. So in this respect, environment was part, but now it becomes a completely different role, because as we heard already in the conference, it's about respecting the planetary boundaries. And this has to be included now as a pillar of One Health. And that gives new challenges for all of us, because if we now want to integrate also planetary health into One Health, you could say, fine, integrate it, but then it means, what do we consume? How do we eat? What do we waste? How do we produce food?
I mean, that in a way is also pointing towards the next question, which is it's getting bigger and bigger, isn't it? It's getting huge, really. So the complexity of the questions that we're going to receive will just keep getting more and more challenging. We see that already with some of those bigger, more wide-ranging mandates that we have at Efsa, that they can take years. I mean, how are we going to make sure that we can deliver the advice to the decision makers in time, so that they can actually, do something about things if it needs to be done?
Yeah, well, that's something that makes me sleepless, I have to say. The timeliness of our advice. We know that for some of our questions now it takes us already years to come to a scientific opinion. And if it takes us years, you could say the day you publish it, it's already outdated. It's like a catch-22 situation. And as the evidence is growing exponentially, there's so much evidence out there. I just take one example, bisphenol A. I think we started with 30,000 publications. And it's growing every year. So how can we make sure that the advice is not only sound and good, but also timely? Is a huge challenge. So I see three different levels. One is our internal organization. Leaning, automation, use of good tools. We are making progress. We are not yet there, but we are working, investing heavily in that. Second possible lever is use more brains. Yes, that's what we want to do. To go to the member state organizations and say, dear member states organizations, we have a problem in Europe to solve. We also have money. That's the good news. So can we borrow from you expertise, experts' time? And we thought this would be sort of a solution, but what the member states, many of them tell us and say, fine that you have money, but we don't have the people. Because we need them at home. So tapping into a wider pool of expertise is one of the not the solution, but one of the ingredients of a solution. This is why we are so strong on ecosystems and partnerships. We need partnerships to do this together for the European system. And there's still a lot of expertise unused in academia. Not so much maybe in member state risk assessment organizations. We are close with them, advisory forum, working groups, networks. But in academia, we still have to go, we have to tap into this pool of expertise more. So that's the brain cloud, so to speak, if you allow me. And the third solution is artificial intelligence, algorithms. Can we develop algorithms that plow through evidence in a sort of a pre-digestion of evidence before the human brain comes in? Yes, I think this will come. We are already working on that. We have projects, we invest into that, we have partnerships, but it's not yet fully ready. It is working, but it's not the silver bullet yet.
Great, and in fact, we just had a session on that this morning.
Yes, yeah, a very interesting session on AI.
Yeah.
Yep.
You also mentioned the brains. Something we notice, in our daily work at Efsa, and I'm sure in other organisations, is just how that incredible creative force that we get from the trainees, from the young people who come in and say, well, why are you doing it that way? Why not do it this way? And it really helps you also to improve. We learn a lot from them. They learn things from us, also what not to do, maybe, sometimes. So, I mean, can we make more use of young scientists? Can we make them experts, more quickly?
Fast-track procedure.
Yes.
I'm not sure. But the experience we have with trainees in Efsa is fantastic. When I joined Efsa, I think we had 12 or 15 trainees.
Yeah.
Now we have 105. It's a workforce within the workforce. It's fantastic. And these young people are so phenomenal. I meet them, if you allow me 1 minute, I meet them, all of them, when they come in. And then I ask them, tell me something about you. Yes, I studied biology in Montpellier, then I did a Master of European Law in Maastricht. I had a research project in the UK, but now I'm moving to Spain. I speak 4 languages. How old are you? 27. What? 27? With 27, I just finished my veterinary studies in Vienna and nothing else, and I was proud. So, I mean, we really get people that are so skilled, so smart, so nimble, so agile. As you said, they are mentoring us.
Yeah.
Can we do the same on the expert level? We try. We are doing a panel renewal for all our 10 panels and the scientific committee in 2024. And we are thinking of, can we have also 1-2 places in each panel, maybe in addition, for younger scientists that are not yet at the level of 15 years of experience and 200 publications. It also would add to the facet of diversity, because I think diversity in our scientific panels is very important, and younger people with different views. The difficulty is when I talk to people at universities, they say, yeah, fantastic, but I run an institute. I don't have time to work on your panel. I need grants. I'm an institute professor, whatever. So it's difficult also to free up resources, what I call for the European project.
Yeah, they obviously that's why we have a lot of more experienced scientists on the panels. Some of them already retired, because they have the time.
Yep,
they have the time. Great. Thank you very much for this little chat, which is the first part of this event. Now we're going to go and relax a little, take a seat over on the comfy chairs.
I'm not sure this will be relaxing when the questions come from the audience.
And we'll have a look at the questions that we receive.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay, let's do that, Tony.
Okay, so it seems we have a few questions already. Let's start. We've got one here from Amy Adkin. I'm not sure if Amy is here in the room or joining us online. Amy's here in the room. Thanks for the question, Amy. So with growing factors included in evidence to support decision-making, inclusion of sustainability assessments, environmental assessments, are policymakers ready to understand this additional evidence? How will it be weighed up with food safety? Do our risk manager colleagues always, manage to absorb all the evidence that's there already? Can they handle even more?
Yeah. I think starting from the end of the question, which is how will it be weighed up with food safety, that cannot happen. No, I think there's no trade-off with food safety. Food safety is a prerequisite. If it's not safe, it's not food, basta. Will this change when following the Ukraine war, there will be a scarcity of calories, maybe, then, yeah, maybe, you know, we had discussions whether in following the war, some of the MRLs could be looked at from residues of pesticides, of course not for levels that would endanger health, but looking at differences between our MRLs and Codex MRLs. But in principle, food safety is a given, and that's also what we hear from the Commissioner. We don't trade off food safety. But then, if this is secured, trade-offs between social sustainability, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability will have to be made. And this is very, very difficult, no? You could ask the question, to raise the standards for animal welfare, what does that mean for the income of rural communities? And what is the trade-off? And who decides on that? For sure not science. That is not a scientific question. That's a value-based question. And for this, policymakers have to define what we call in our food risk assessment protection goals. No, we did recently work on bees, bee guidance document for testing pesticides, and to decide to which extent losses of bees can be tolerated by the use of pesticides is a political question, not a scientific one. And we helped the risk managers, we proposed to them how to come to a conclusion, and they did. So that's very important to separate scientific work from the value-based work on sustainability, to have the trade-offs between the different aspects of sustainability. Now, to your question, can the risk managers deal with the additional evidence? I think that's up to us to present the evidence in a way that makes sense. I go back to what I tried to say yesterday, sense-making. There's so much signals, evidence, data out that we as scientific advisors, as scientific agencies, one of our tasks is to make sense, to put this together and present it in a way that people can say, okay, I understand there are different scenarios, and if I, risk manager, decide for this, this will be the most likely consequences. And I think we have to go there also in food technology assessments. Not only talk about a molecule, but to talk about what does it mean if this molecule is used in agriculture in Europe. What does it mean for the farmers? What does it mean for biodiversity? What does it mean for groundwater, for food prices, for availability of food? And this is why we think in this conference we have to bring it a level higher, and the One Health is a stepping stone in a way. Food safety assessments, other assessments together, so to speak, in a package, a more holistic package, so that policymakers can make the right decisions. And their job is still very difficult, even if we present the evidence in the most sense-making way. Did this make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Up to you to decide.
I'll leave it up to the audience to decide. Actually, in a way, there's a related question from Laurent Auger, which is a little bit about the you know, although the event, it's a joint event, we've got our sister agencies also helping us in organising the event. But the question is, how can we get them even more fully engaged, you know, so that this is an event that isn't, you know, just being led by Efsa, but it's being led by all of the agencies, and how can we then translate that into, you know, the day-to-day work?
It's a good point. I would say we are on a journey. We are on a journey. We started with this conference. There was a lot of input from our colleagues, from our sister agencies. We would have wished for more. I do not hide that, but it's also difficult for them, for their work program, for their priorities. So maybe the next conference could be even more jointly in the future. And I'm a believer in what I tried to say yesterday, that collaboration 1.0 is no longer enough. We collaborate if we have a problem, then we solve the problem, then we say thank you, and we go on. That's, for me, collaboration 1.0, problem-oriented. My approach is collaboration 2.0. We don't have a problem, and still we collaborate because we want to create the opportunities of the future. Which people say, no, why should we do that? We don't have a problem. I have my work to do. Why should I collaborate with the chemical agents in Helsinki? There is no reason to collaborate because we don't have a problem. And I find this a complete old-fashioned mindset. Because I think if in an organization, if you have solved all problems, the organization is just mediocre. Because you forgot to create and seize the opportunities of the future. So let's not become problem solvers. Of course we have to solve problems. But there must be space, and that's difficult, also in Efsa, to create the space where people have time to collaborate for the future. And many of us would do that in Efsa, but they say, I don't just have time for that because I have so many problems to solve. So there's something that we as in management also, I think, have to do differently, different objectives, setting aside time for collaboration, creating spaces where people can meet, communities, partnerships, electronic cafeterias, whatever. And this maybe could be the way for further integration, which we all talk about here, integration, transdisciplinary collaboration, and we just talk. No, it's not enough. Actions speak louder than words. Now, we collaborate a lot. I see Akos here. We collaborate a lot from the Hungarian authority, and as I see Christine here from Denmark. We do a lot of collaboration, and we should do more. Where we push, we nudge, we pull, we bribe with tortelli in Parma. So we try.
Of course, we have the big kind of data collection works that we do with the other agencies as well. So there are some.
There are good examples.
Really
we do AMR with the Medicines Agency, with the Center for Disease Control. We do zoonosis with the Center for Disease Control. And now a big collaboration is the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability with the Chemical Agency, the one assessment, one substance, one assessment approach. So we are on a good track. But from my perspective, we are moving like a tartaruga, a turtle, but the environment is moving like a rabbit. It's a bit of an unfair race, so we have to be faster.
Speaking of the rabbit, we had a question from Regine Schreiner about, and actually that touches a little on the presentation yesterday about epistemic engagement. Very nice phrase coined there. So Regine asks, how can we use the scientific expertise from industry, better at Efsa? How can that help us? Is it possible, also given, bearing in mind the whole context?
Yeah. It's a difficult one. Because Efsa was created, as you know, in the aftermath of the BSE crisis, where trust was at a low. It was not because of industry, but because of some administrations put trade above safety. And that created the whole disaster of the mad cow disease. So then Efsa was created with the clear view of independence. Not only independence from politics and member states, also from industry. And we went a journey of 20 years now to strengthen our independence rules. Not to the pleasure of all of our colleagues, because it's a huge administrative burden. We scan thousands of declarations of interests a year. And also we exclude an enormous amount of knowledge by that. But that is, so to speak, a societal agreement with the European Parliament, with the member states, with civil society, if I may call it like that this, what we have now, is the right level of scrutiny when we talk about conflicts of interest. So we exclude a huge amount of expertise, but we secure scientific panels and working groups that are as free from interests as they can be. Are there ways to tap into the expertise of industry still? Yes, we have hearing experts. And we use more and more hearing experts. And they can have all conflicts of the world. We don't care, because they are hearing experts. And we are thinking of other ways, so to speak, before the working group level. Could we use industry closer maybe not industry, employed experts in a way as if they would produce dossiers which we scrutinize later anyway. So we try and think about that, but it's a constraint that is there that we cannot get rid of. It's an agreement of the society. It's not EFSA's choice. Society has agreed this is the way we want to have scientific advice in Europe. And I'm fine with that. I just wanted, I wish we would have a common European framework. What is independent enough science? Because everybody asks for independent science. And then I say, okay, show me an independent scientist. Maybe Mr. Bill Gates is an independent scientist, but are the university scientists independent? I don't believe that fully, because you need grants, you are in an institution. So this whole notion of independent science is a bit of a tricky thing. And I would like to have a political agreement on European level. This is independent enough science, but we don't have it yet. So we have our own rules. They are good, they are strict, but they are also painful.
Mm-hmm. We also have the discussion groups, the stakeholder discussion groups on the different thematic themes as well. So
stakeholder engagement is high on our agenda, and it helps us.
Actually, well, we have a question there from Jose Cortinas, about how that will influence the DOI process, the declarations of interest process that Bernard just mentioned. If we try and bring on board all of these views in a way you've already talked about it, is it sustainable to, bring on even more views and have to, do even more reviews of declarations of interest?
Yeah, that's one of the obstacles if we go into academia, if you want to crowdsource, so to speak, more in the academic world, because we cannot do that without clearing declarations of interest. At least in some way. Also, maybe we can find here other ways, lighter ways, so to speak, when we do something like scientific crowdsources with academia. I'm not sure, Jose, this is really the core of your question, but we cannot have a discussion here because of the online participants, so it can only be done via the app. I'm not sure I really address the core of your question. But as we are working in the same organization, we can also have a chat offline.
There'll be time over lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on then. We talked a lot about collaboration, and actually this event as well is a great example of how, speaking to people face to face, for the first time, in some cases for a couple of years now, it really does, help exchange views, learn from others. Regine, who we already answered one question from Regine, also asked, when will we be having the open plenaries in Parma again? So when we've been doing them, we've continued them throughout the whole pandemic period, but online. So will we be having them in person again at Efsa soon? Yeah,
we are starting with that. So we are having in-person panel meetings already now, but of course, COVID has also changed the way we do scientific decision finding. We will have in the future most likely only a smaller proportion of all panel meetings in person. We will not go back to 100% personal panel and working group meetings. We have seen via COVID it's possible. It saves time. It saves CO2. So we will, I don't know, it depends a bit on the context. We are thinking of 75% remote online, 1/4 in person. Maybe for some groups it could be 50-50. So, but somewhere around here we will find a new normal. But then if and when we will have open plenary meetings in person, there will be also open plenary meetings. We will reinstate that.
Good. I'm glad to hear, because it's good fun to attend them and meet the observers as well. We have a question from Violette, which is maybe outside EFSA's area of responsibility, but I'll pose it to you anyway, so that maybe we can point Violette in the right direction. How will you include the precautionary principle in pesticide regulation? So. not really Efsa's business, but
Yeah,
I guess
it's often a request that we get and say, why don't you integrate the precautionary principle in your risk assessments? And we say always, but that's why, how? The precautionary principle is a risk management tool to decide when there is scarcity of data and the risk of harm is high. Then they can apply the precautionary principle and say, it's not safe enough in our view as risk managers because there's a lack of data and we do something, we regulate something, and we revisit it after new data has been produced. In the risk assessment process, we don't talk about the precautionary principle, we talk about uncertainty. This is, so to speak, the representation of, it's not the representation of precaution, but it's the representation of scarcity of data that we also discuss. We also report to the risk managers the level of uncertainty. And this can lead risk managers to use the precautionary principle. So it's not for the risk assessors to use the precautionary principle. We should do the best possible science. I hope this is the core of this question, because the pesticides regulation was mentioned, and there's a bit of a different notion in the pesticides regulation, in the regulation 1107/2009, which is cut-off criteria, as many of you know, that if a molecule has intrinsic properties like mutagenicity, carcinogenicity, or others, the risk managers, the legislators decided not to go to the step of risk assessment, but to say, we legislators have decided there should not be any exposure. We cut off here, hazard-based. We look at the hazard, it's carcinogenic, we cut it off. No exposure, will not be authorized. And this could also be part of the question, whether there is a precautionary principle. And I think in a way this is precautionary, because the legislators say, this is so serious for us that we don't want to talk about exposure. We don't want to talk about risks. We cut it off at the hazard base. It's a European approach. It's not done in the US. It's criticized by many people saying, why shouldn't we do risk assessment? We can always do risk assessment, even with these hazardous molecules, but that was decided by the legislators, and that's the way it is. But in principle, I would say the precautionary principle is out of our factory.
Yeah, but it's a good answer actually, because it does show that in a way it's been applied there already if you're basing it on hazard assessment rather than risk assessment. So
yep.
Yeah. We've got another question. And actually, this is something that I have an interest in as well, is risk-benefit assessment. You know, so do we need a risk-benefit agency that looks more at the benefits as well as the risks? You know, we've got some work coming up in that area, on fish in particular.
Yeah, we have done work already.
We've done work already
on fish and contaminants. Mm-hmm. I think now we have new work on consumption of fish, because the protective effect on the heart, and contaminants. Yeah, I think we are going there. We are going there also slowly into risk-benefit considerations, which I also find interesting from the language. We say risk-benefit, and I think we should say harm-benefit or risk-opportunity. We put the harm on the risk. It can be, but the benefit we take as there is a benefit. No, I think it's not an equal term, but it's part of our language, so we use it. I find it just interesting. Somebody has coined it wisely, risk-benefit and not risk-opportunities. We do it. The difficulty that we see, and many of you are also in this business, is to have a currency, a common currency for risk-benefit assessments. Because you can have a risk on the heart, and the benefit is somewhere else. Or we had... Yeah, maybe that's even a good example. You have a risk on the kidney or on the sperm count of young males, and then you have the benefit on the coronary arteries. What is the currency to balance these two?
To compare them. To
compare them. It's difficult. Even if we are in the health realm, it's only about health. But then when you go to sustainability assessments, suddenly comes income of farmers, environmental pollution, affordability of food. so many different currencies come in that will all have to be weighed and decided. So that's a very complex future, which we like. No, we also like complexity in a way. We create it also. But as replying to this question, we are going there. Yes. Be patient, please. It's not easy. We are working on a guidance document, and I think the guidance document is planned for 2024. So, if I remember correctly,
maybe even 23.
Maybe even 23 already.
Maybe at least for public consultation.
Could be, yeah. So it's coming.
Actually, we're involved in that in a way as well, at looking at the perceptions, because the risk perceptions and the benefit perceptions differ too.
Yeah.
So this is something that we're at least taking into account as part of the context. So when the risk managers pose the questions to us, they can at least appreciate that that is an element as well.
Yeah.
We've got a follow-up question from Akos. Connecting to risk-benefit assessment, what about cost-benefit or cost-utility analyses? Somewhere in the grey area between risk assessment and management.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's more risk management. No, it's more risk management, because it broadens the picture for saying, okay, we have a risk or a benefit. What are the costs and the benefits for the society, and who has the risk and who has the benefit? Distribution of risks and benefits, and also costs and benefits. We are thinking about that. We tried to do something on a herbicide, quite a famous herbicide, to look at it a bit more holistically. If we use it in agriculture, what does it mean for costs, for benefits, for risks, for biodiversity? But that never came to fruition. It points, Akash, to me, again, to the need of collaboration. We cannot do it as Efsa, we are not economists, but we could provide something that others can use to put their thing on it, and together it would then lead to this more integrated assessments for policymakers. I think that's the future. And I think everybody would agree on that, no, intellectually. We have to go there. Not an easy way, but from my perspective, no alternative. There's no alternative.
Sounds good. Well, I remember hearing from colleagues at ANSYS in France in some of the assessments they do, where they also involved economists, to look at the impact on local communities, for example, some of the stuff that they work on. We've got another question here. We've got another 5 minutes to go. We've got a question from Tobias, who also works in a public authority. And says that he understands that the authorities need to be neutral, maintain their neutrality, and maybe be maybe not always be so as approachable in order to maintain that neutrality. At least that's what I understand from the question. But in academia, you have you can really find people easily on institutional websites, etc. So is this something that we should do more of? Should we, have the names of our experts and what they work on, our staff? Should we make it more accessible so that there can be more of this interaction?
Yeah, we discussed it, I think, a few years ago, but there were considerations of privacy, cybersecurity, harassment, automated mass mails, because they just sucked off the data from websites, and then you got all these mails. So we decided, I think, I'm speaking a bit under control of others, that we do not publish the email addresses of our people, of our staff on the website. But I don't think that this is a major obstacle for collaboration. Because usually you would find the people via publications, via our scientific opinions, where you have all the contributors, and then you can immediately approach them. You know the logic of how email addresses are built, even if you don't find the email address. I don't think this is an obstacle for collaboration. And in the question was something like the agencies are shielding themselves for reasons of neutrality. I don't think that Efsa is shielded. I think we are quite an open organization altogether. And neutrality is not our safe point. It's not about neutrality. It's about objectivity, about being serious. As I said, trustworthiness.
Just thinking about that too, we also have the Ask Efsa service. So if people, want to get in touch with somebody, they can do that easily.
Should be easy. Yeah.
They can do that easily enough, and that gives us a way to channel those requests so that the people that they want to speak to aren't inundated with emails from all over the place.
And we will have more and more communities, electronic communities, platforms where you can engage. I mean, we are testing more and more and doing that. So it will be even more open and fluid, I think, in the future. And we need exactly that.
A lot of our scientists are on social media as well.
Yeah.
Twitter, LinkedIn, you can quite often get into discussions with them about their work on those platforms too. It's a provocative question from Filipa in Portugal. When will we integrate a one ethic approach? Wow.
Wow. Is there one ethic? I'm not sure if there's a one ethic. I mean, there's for sure a behavioral conducts conducts, or how would you say that, for ethical behavior as a public organization, which it's about accountability and respect and all that stuff. But whether there's a one ethic for the European 27 member states, besides basic ethics like democratic institutions, accountability, fairness, justice, maybe ethics is our democratic approach in Europe. But I will come back to Philippa. I will meet her maybe at the next advisory forum and then have a bit of an ethics side discussion. Thanks, Philippa, for the question.
Interesting question.
Yeah.
There's also an interesting one from Raymond O'Rourke. Conflicts in risk assessment. If you get more member states involved in collaboration, maybe you'll also get more, differing views. So if this is done transparently, how can you maintain that consumer trust if if there's more transparency about those differences behind the scenes?
No, it's a good point, I think. On the one hand, we would say scientific dispute is nature of science. We call science organized skepticism. And I find this a very good description of science, organized skepticism. We have to be skeptical every morning and try to falsify and make our hypothesis wrong, not right. And some of them survive, and then they become good hypotheses and maybe even theories. So this is the good part of science. But if we have scientific divergences that confuse risk managers and consumers, then we have a problem. And this is where we need collaboration upfront, upstream. When we plan risk assessments, we realize, you're also working on bisphenol A, we are working on bisphenol A, can we do something together? And this sounds completely as a no-brainer, but it's not easy because timelines, budgets, national governments wanting something. But we have mechanism in place, the advisory forum, we exchange programs, work programs. Then even in our founding regulation, we have an article, if a divergency happens, we have an article how to bring the parties together to work for a solution. And if there's no solution, to explain transparently why we are of different scientific opinion. It's not perfect, but it's a good system. And I think it should not jeopardize transparency. No, I think we should make also these differences transparent, but in a smart way, a non-confusing way. Last one?
Excellent, yes. I think that was the last one. We're almost out of time. So thanks very much, Bernard, for answering all these questions, for putting yourself on the spot.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
And thanks to everybody here who joined us at the conference, and also those of you watching online. Be sure to keep following this afternoon's session. Which one will you be attending this afternoon? What's on your social science, obviously?
I will have a meeting with the European Council and then with the US FDA. So no session for no session.
Anyway, the rest of you were more than welcome to join us, and be sure to get those questions in on the app, follow things, and come back tomorrow.
And have a good lunch break.
Yes.
Enjoy the lunch, please.
Bon appétit.
Thank you.
Goeie appetit.
Thanks, Tony. Bye-bye.